All right. Got a little sneak peek at the website, what's been going on there. Hopefully I'll have a scrolling sponsors page there soon. Anyway, we continue to the show. The Talent and Recruitment Committee met last week on the 15th and discussed some appointments to the Ottawa County Community Corrections Advisory Board. Commissioner Zylstra mentioned that the nomination of Brooke Karl may be in violation of Michigan state law. So we'll discuss that. Also, there is a discussion on the Veteran Affairs Committee and an effort to establish an entire department for veterans in the next meeting. Actually, the last meeting that just happened. No, the next meeting after that. Yeah, 21st. Commissioners Zylstra and Bergman inquire in the same meeting about ending the publication of the Ottawa Way after some objectionable content was published in it. What is the objectionable content? We'll take a look. Finally, the health department budget cuts are going to be a hot button issue in the coming weeks. Coverage from Sentinel is already starting, but they are keeping it behind the paywall for now. When the free articles come out, we will see where the Sentinel is angling its readers. I would bet it's in the same direction that they have already been heading. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Anon Don. This is the Holmes Politicast. All right, here we are, back for another week. I'm excited to be back with you. Okay, so I watched a lot of boring commissioner meetings and trying to pick out the gems for you here. So we had this appointment to the Workforce Investment or the Community Corrections Advisory Board, the Workforce Investor. So Commissioner Zylstra, as I said in the opening, had mentioned that the appointment was not legal, possibly not legal. And upon further review, he was actually right. Imagine that. So, he got this one right. This is the second time that I think it's the second time that I've looked into one of the laws that he had cited, and this one is blatantly like he is in the right. So one member who is affiliated with the applicable workforce investment board, that was supposed to be Miss Brooke Karl, and while she seemed like a great nomination and seems like she's been doing some great work, it does say that this member must be affiliated with the applicable workforce investment board. I think the county commissioners have recognized that the nomination was not put forward in the commissioner meeting yesterday. So we're not going to talk a ton about the meeting yesterday because that is a topic for next week, but I will say that she was supposed to be a topic of discussion for the commissioner meeting, and that vanished apparently. Commissioner Zylstra mentioned that when I had talked to him and asked him about some of the claims that he had made. So Brooke Karl seems like she would have been a great candidate, but not lawful for us to put her in that position. So that's what's going on with our Ottawa County Community Correction Advisory Board. I know, super exciting stuff. And you know, this is why I exist. I do I watch the real nail biters there, so that I don't miss a thing and so that you don't miss a thing. I know there are other people that do this as well, but I hope to be the least partisan of those and the most balanced. I try to give both sides their due diligence and reporting on them. So that is why I think I still have a Democrat commissioner listening, the only Democrat commissioner listening. Trying to be balanced on this issue. So got to give Zylstra points when he is absolutely 100% correct. So they also, Zylstra and Bergman inquire about possibly ending the publication of the Ottawa Way. And now the Ottawa Way is, for some of you who don't know, it's this publication that, well, here, I'll pull it up. It's a publication that's sent out by the county. And it's supposed to be informative, letting people know what's going on in the county. So here's the newsletter from last month. Let's see, summer 2023. I forget when it came out, but here it is. They talk about some of the things going on in Ottawa County. They talk about this firefighting foam that they got. Super riveting stuff. We'll get to specifically the objectionable content in a second, but here's just some of the stuff that they have. Sheriff's Office adds human trafficking support. Actually, I heard that the Sheriff's Office caught a bunch of people that were human trafficking, which is awesome. They were involved in that sting. They got a bunch of guys from Ottawa County, a couple from Kent County. That was cool. So it talks about, maybe it is talking about that. I think that happened after this publication came out. So we'll see if that's in the next publication. But Commissioner Zylstra and Commissioner Bergman feel that the Ottawa Way may not be necessarily representing them in, well, really any way
the county newsletter
whatsoever. So here is Commissioner Zylstra talking about his problems with the newsletter and the latest edition.
As a newsletter, we've had this discussion with Chair Moss, is something that represents all of us as a board. I personally felt like the last newsletter didn't fulfill that completely. So either we look at our procedures around the newsletter, or, if we can't come to a procedure that satisfies everybody, to eliminate that from the budget.
Commissioner Moss.
I support continuing the newsletter.
I'm curious, how long, excuse me.
Can I respond? Because I would concur with Doug that it was used in an inappropriate manner the last time, and I believe it should be either eliminated or it should be focused on the county departments other than, philosophies.
Commissioner Rhodey.
I just want to push back on that a little bit, because I do believe that county newsletters kind of can't help but reflect the direction of those in leadership at the time that the newsletter is created. And looking back to the newsletters that came out from the prior board, they in fact were quite offensive to a number of people in the community, because they were reflective of the views of the leadership of the prior board and the leadership going on in the county, and it perhaps wasn't appreciated in the same way that you appreciated it. And so I think some of that may always be true, that we're not all the same, and so we're not going to all appreciate the written word. And the
So this goes on for a little while with Doug, who was also pushed back a little bit on that. He was saying that previously the board had unanimously approved everything that was in the Ottawa Way. And while that's true, yes, the previous board did unanimously support everything that was in the Ottawa Way, but the previous board also unanimously supported a lot of things that's just not the case anymore. So I think really we're in uncharted territory here a little bit with the commissioners pushing back against each other so much. I don't know what the answer is. They both had good points, I guess. We'll look at the content that Mr. Zylstra has found to not, and I guess he didn't say it's objectionable, but he said it didn't represent him. And actually, I agree with him that it didn't represent him. But I don't know if that's justification for getting rid of the whole publication. So we have, this was the last part of the newsletter. It talked about the Board of Commissioners' core accomplishments. So they said they had strengthened fairness and equal treatment for all by closing the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusions office on day one, which obviously Commissioner Zylstra was a part of establishing that. So that doesn't represent an accomplishment for him or for Commissioner Bergman. Another one was honored veterans with the Heroes of Freedom resolution. I think that he did vote yes on that resolution. I think he did. Yeah, I'm not. He can call me and let me know if that's not the case, but I don't think he'll be offended to have said to voted yes on honoring veterans. And then streamlined and enhanced county communications by creating the communications director position. And I think, there would be a lot of people in the county government currently that would object to that. I've heard a lot of discussion about people having trouble getting a hold of the administrator or different commissioners. So I'm not, I can see where Doug is like, that didn't really represent me. Another part of the Ottawa Way here was honoring the Constitution, which Doug voted no on, about becoming a constitutional county where there wasn't going to be any seizure of weapons without due process. And we went over, obviously, the constitutional county thing, the resolution. We talked about the implications. We talked about who all in the county is supporting it, who is not. what it actually does. And I think, Doug is absolutely correct that this doesn't represent him or Commissioner Bergman, who were the two sole no votes on that. But I fail to see why the county newsletter has to be like unanimously voted on, because I do remember some objectionable things in previous newsletters, things that did not represent the whole county. So Sylvia has a point that it really does reflect the leadership of the county. And obviously during COVID, there was a lot of things the commissioners were talking about and saying that a lot of people objected to. That's why there are 8 new commissioners. So yeah, that's a discussion. I mean, obviously the Ottawa Way is not going to go away, because that would require a majority vote for that, and I don't think Doug's even going to get a second on his his motion to. Well, he might. Bergman might give him a second, but there's no way that vote's going anywhere. So that's really not going to be not even an issue. So the Ottawa Way, I think, is kind of here to stay. The other something else that we were looking at here. So this resolution. Oh, I didn't even put okay, so we'll talk about the resolution in a second. The Veteran Affairs Department. So this is been quite the topic of discussion, with actually Jacob Bonema is on the opposite side of this from the other commissioners, the other Ottawa Impact elected commissioners. Obviously he's not Ottawa Impact affiliated anymore, but he was elected with them, and I still see him as one of the more conservative. Well, he's on the conservative side of the aisle, whatever I think anyone else may say about him. But so he has been in talks with Muskegon's Veteran Affairs Committee. He mentioned that their director may have some insight into ways that we can be spending our money wisely as we are establishing more veteran services. And the commissioners, obviously the Ottawa Impact Commissioner is very much supportive of Veteran Affairs Department. But there's some pushback. And here's Jacob Bonham. No. That's not what I wanted. So here's Bergman has talked. He says he's talked to veterans, and he says that the veterans are very happy with their services so far in the department, or what we have here in Ottawa County.
So over the weekend, I talked to folks that are from the VFWs from the Holland and Grand Haven area, the east side or the west side of the county, the VFWs and the Legions, and from their perspectives, all needs are being met. So they questioned why the county would need to be any more involved in terms of some of those needs when they are already being met. So how would you respond to that?
Sure.
So that was very unspecific. Hopefully I'll be able to talk to Commissioner Bergman and ask about some of the things that he talked with veterans about. What specifically did they think was going very well? What specifically did they think wasn't going very well? I can imagine that with our spending being somewhere around half of other counties, that we can't have as many services as other counties do. So I mean, maybe he has talked to some veterans that are very happy with the services being provided by Ottawa County right now. It's possible that there are some gaps that could be filled, which is actually exactly what John Gibbs says, that he's looking at. The director would be able to look at gaps that this newly appointed Veteran Affairs Division would be able to help out with. So Commissioner Bonema, had talked a couple weeks ago with Muskegon County's director, and he had an interesting claim to make here,
Commissioner Bergman.
that there was no contact with Muskegon County from Ottawa County, any officials. We haven't really talked with them about what their division is doing. So I think he brings up a great point. We could have the director come talk to the board in a public meeting, even in a private meeting. That's not totally out of the question. If we want to model our department after Muskegon's department, why not have the director of Muskegon come in? And I think he really makes a good point there. So here's Jacob brings up something. I don't even think we need to watch this clip. So he says that Muskegon County isn't able to use. We do need to watch it. So he actually brings up a point that. So it's
and
weird,
that
'cause
they
he's
do, like you
saying-
said, have people.
He's saying that we might not need this division or this department, but also that there are services being offered by other counties that our veterans are not able to utilize.
From Ottawa County, veterans from Ottawa County, walk in through the door to ask them for specific services, but that they are forbidden from providing those services because of the specific
Back it up a little
the
bit.
time frame, and that they do, like you said, have people from Ottawa County, veterans from Ottawa County, walk in through the door to ask them for specific services, but that they are forbidden from providing those services because those are Muskegon County tax dollars.
So we do have the Muskegon County director says it right out to Jacob Bonema, who I think has talked with him. We do have veterans that are coming in to other departments, other counties, looking for services, and he says they're rejected from those services because those are Muskegon County tax dollars. So I think what the rest of the board is saying is, what are those services that are not being provided by by Ottawa County? And will this department help to provide those services for veterans here in Ottawa County? Now, Commissioner Bergman had mentioned that he's talked with veterans that are against the establishment of a department, or at least not against it maybe, but they say they don't see a need for it. Well, here is at least one veteran, one of I think 4 or 5, no, I think four veterans talked at this last county commissioner meeting that we had just yesterday, and there is a lot of actually support from veterans coming in talking to the board.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you so very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of myself and other veterans. Just to put it simply, I spent 25 years with the U.S. Army Special Forces, retired 17 years ago. It took 10 years to receive the disability rating that I have now. Was shot twice, blown up once, spent a cumulative of 9 years in combat. And it should not take 10 years. This is with 5 different states, 11 different VA facilities. Finally, the Grand Rapids VA facility did some sort of help. They sent me with a PTSD coordinator, a 25-year-old female who had just finished school, a clinical psychologist. And she said, "I'm here to help you, Sergeant Muir." Well, there was little no help. God love her for trying. But your proposal, your resolution to open an Ottawa County office is imperative. We shouldn't have to travel to Wyoming to seek people that don't know what they're doing. The system, the VA system itself is wonderful. It's old, but it's wonderful. The problem is we have uneducated, untrained people running the system who think that that's their system. It's their money to give out to the veterans as they see fit, regardless of what paperwork is done improperly or properly. So here's the steps to do it. You go there, you sign a 1010 easy form, you bring a copy of your marriage certificate, children's birth certificates if there's
So he says that it's imperative to get this done. He goes on to talk about the problems with trying to get help, the steps that they have to go through, going online, filling out paperwork. There's a lot of things that maybe veterans aren't able to navigate very easily. And his suggestion is that having a department here in Ottawa County that can help veterans with that would be great. So there are, this is a medium warm button issue as we're looking at cutting certain taxes, cutting certain budgets, and increasing others. There's a lot of contention in Ottawa County surrounding increase in the administrator's budget, increase in corporate counsel's budget, decrease in the health department budget, which we're going to be talking about next. So Veteran Affairs Division may be increasing. Health department is decreasing. They're going to be decreasing by potentially 5%. And we've talked about actually quite a bit about what the health department is, what it does, how super useful it is. So here is the chairperson, Gretchen Cosby, talking about the cuts to the Ottawa County Health Department.
Or number 1, optimizing the public health budget to bring it back to pre-COVID historic levels. Any discussion? Commissioner Moss?
Sure, I'll be happy to speak to that. I was reviewing kind of taking a historical perspective on public health budgets. And if you look back towards 2009 through 2019, that kind of area, you see public health, at least general fund allocations, much closer to $2.5–3 million, somewhere in that range, maybe a little more than that. And then you also see a fair number of grants that also add to the public health budget. So what I think would be a wise use of taxpayer funds is to look at bringing the general fund allocation for public health back towards kind of its historical standard over the last 10 or so years. It looks like when the pandemic started, there was a significant increases in public health as they responded to the pandemic. We've seen what types of responses there have been. We've seen also the reaction to those responses with the people of Ottawa County asking for a new direction, making sure that the county prioritizes freedom and things like that. So I'd love to see that budget go back to kind of what it has been historically, maybe put it down towards 2.5 in the general fund allocation. And there'd still probably be another $5 million in grants, I believe. We could kind of dig into it a little bit more.
So Commissioner Moss is really talking about getting the health department budget knocked down quite a bit. And I gotta say, I haven't seen the health department. I haven't really seen a justification for the need for all the money that they are giving. The health department operated, as Commissioner Moss said, just fine, in between $2.5 and $3 million of general fund money. So, obviously, Commissioner Zylstra pushed back on that a lot. He looked historically at 2001 when our general budget was around $5 million. And I'm hoping to, again, I'm hoping to talk to Doug pretty soon here and going to get his take on exactly what services are being given by the health department that justify the huge price tag, right? Because a lot of people in our county are up in arms about a $30,000 increase for the administrative assistant. And yet here we're talking about $2-ish million. $2 million as opposed to 30,000. So that is a huge portion of our budget. And I think our health department is probably doing a lot of things, and I've reported on them doing a lot of things that are not really necessary, not really super helpful for our county. So maybe that's something that we need to do a deep dive into, just look at the health department's budget and exactly what they're spending their money on. So that might be a 120 News Flash for this week, is just looking at the health department budget, finding out exactly what they're doing with all the money that we're dumping into them. But this issue is it's going to be huge, especially for places like the Holland Sentinel, where they are already speaking out about this awful turn of events. Obviously, stuff behind the paywall. Oh, this is not behind the paywall. So this is fresh, raw, direct. This is the first time I'm seeing this. So Hambly said that the proposed cuts would significantly impair and likely eliminate various public health services. Let's see. She says the actions could lead to increased fees and long delays. Again, I'm looking through here, and I'm not seeing her saying what exactly the money is being spent on that's super helpful. I'm looking through, and I'm just not seeing it. Let's see, who wrote this? Sarah Leach, I'm betting. Oh, Mitchell Boatman. Okay. So Mitchell Boatman, he takes up the mantle of Adeline Hambly and says that yes, these things will certainly decrease the amount of services provided. But I don't see the services being provided. I don't see, let's see, where they say these are the services that we're giving that we won't be able to give. I'm just not seeing them. I see graphs about how much money they're spending. graphs. Let's see. Yeah. No actual things that the health department is doing. So that would be a good investigative journalism piece, is to, and it would help to convince the public that this is necessary. So, I mean, somebody's got to be able to do this. Mitchell Boatman can do this. Doug Zylstra could possibly do this. He could do a lot easier than I could. He could find out what the health department, what services that they're offering that they would have to cut, what services would be left. Like, that would be great for our county. If you could see that, maybe you could convince me that the health department needs all the funds that they have. But I haven't seen so far why they need the funds. I've seen them bring proposed surveys and different things, which were very controversial. Haven't seen the services rendered that require the amount that they're getting. So that is the show for this week. Again, we're going to be looking at maybe a 120 news flash for you coming up later this week on exactly why the health department needs the extra $2 million. So be looking forward to that. If it's a little bit bigger, maybe I'll give an update on what I've found, and then that'll be a bigger topic for next week's show. I want to thank you guys all for joining me this week for the Homes Politicast. Staying up to date with your, oh my goodness, probably 4.5 hours of commissioner meetings. I got you covered. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to tell you guys what is relevant, what is happening. So, again, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Anon Don. See you next week. This is the Homes Politicast.